to deal with these people because they're good folks. They're really good folks. I've talked to Ed Kopp in the past about how he started the business, and they're really conscientious. You can call them at 734-864-4340 or go to AAAServiceNetwork.com. So that clears up the commercial aspect of the show. Now we get into the political aspect. And joining us is Congressman Tim Walberg of the 7th Congressional District. Hi, Tim.
Good to be with you today, and we wish Gary and his family, the father, the best.
Yes, exactly. I really haven't explained what's going on with Gary, but I'm not. He hasn't really said that he wanted anybody to know, but you keep Gary's family in your prayers, if you would, please. In fact, Father, right now, would you please help the whole family, the whole Wellings family, as they deal with this issue with Gary's dad, and please see them all through this, through the grace of Jesus and the grace of God in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, thank you. And thanks, Tim, for bringing that up so that I don't have to feel like I violated a trust. You did. Thank you.
We all go through it sometime or another, and it's most personal for each of us, and when we know that we have supporters, it's a help. So anyway. Yes,
exactly. Now I want you to know that just because Gary isn't here to give you regular softball questions, we're going to play hardball with you now, okay? So this is a whole different show.
I think Tim could handle it.
So, Tim, I'm going to play an audio clip. I want to see what your reaction to this is. Derek, would you play the Frederica Wilson tape, please?
Those people who are online making fun of members of Congress are a disgrace. And there's no need for anyone to think that is unacceptable. We're going to shut them down and work with whoever it is to shut them down, and they should be prosecuted.
Okay, Tim, for one, is it unacceptable or acceptable? I'm confused. Does a woman know how to know the English language?
Well, sometimes you get caught up in emotion and you forget the basic content of what you're saying, and you make mistakes. I've done that as well. Frederica is a friend of mine. Frederica is now the chairman of the committee that I'm a ranking member of. I used to be the chairman until the Democrats took majority control this past year. So I see her regularly. She's a former school principal administrator in Florida, and yet she doesn't understand the First Amendment clearly here. And I'd tell her that to her face as well, and we'd smile at each other and be friendly. But I'd say, Frederica, the First Amendment, even when I don't like it, and in most cases, it's the liberal side that are attacking us. And you're getting a little bit of it now because you're in the majority party, and your party is doing some stupid things, like saying that there's no problem at the border, no crisis at the border, and all of a sudden, after 60 days of the president saying there's a crisis at the border, we need help, we need funding to make sure that our ICE and our Border Patrol agents have the resources to do the job, and we can pay them overtime because they're going to have to work overtime, and we have to be able to have facilities to take care of the massive onslaught of people that are coming. And you don't think it's a crisis? Well, it's about time. Now they say it's a crisis, and they're blaming it on President Trump and blaming it on the Republicans that we didn't see it as a crisis. I don't get that. I don't get that, Gary, and or Ed. And bottom line is, they're the crisis makers. Now they got to live with it.
Well, are we in any danger? Myself particularly, and Alex, he posts all kinds of stuff making fun of various Democratic politicians. Are we in any danger, or are you actually holding off on your criticism of Frederica because you don't want to go to jail?
No, I've as you noticed, I did criticize her for not understanding the First Amendment. I can be nice and friendly to a person, but I also can tell the truth. And Frederica, in this case, is being emotional and trying to whip up a frenzy against the right side of the equation. That says the Democrats are hurting this country and are hurting the people at the border by their lack of willingness to provide the resources that are necessary. And finally, fortunately, because of the continued pressure and the Senate saying no to Nancy Pelosi and Frederica Wilson's legislation they sent across that did not fund the border functions, ultimately some of the, I guess you'd say, more fair-minded, common sense Democrats began to talk to their leadership and say you can't count on our support anymore. Our constituents are very concerned about what's taking place at the border. We're going to be in a political world of hurt if you don't start to change your your perspective, and that's when Nancy Pelosi last week ultimately buckled under the pressure of some of her more moderate Democrat colleagues and ultimately backed down on trying to push forward a piece of legislation that was not going to pass like the one the week before. And so we took the Senate bill up, which wasn't perfect, but it gave what the president for the most part wanted. He has been willing to sign it. And now we've got to go back for the rest that's needed to make sure that, number one, we have a legal country, a legal immigration system where people come across understanding that we are a nation of laws, and that's what makes us so free, because we all live by those same laws. We're all treated equally, and you don't just come over, pass go, with no penalty. And that's all we're asking. We believe that there's a crisis, humanitarian crisis, that kids are being hurt, that kids are being coyoted into the country. They're not coming with family members to a great extent. They're coming with a coyote that has asked the parents of this child to pay exorbitant sums. The coyote comes up, uses the child as a ploy, uses the right words that the lawyers are giving to these illegals, and is given asylum, at least the opportunity to have a asylum hearing. And we don't have enough magistrates to do the job, and the bill we passed at least gave 30 more bad magistrate teams that can start to get a little bit of a handle on what needs to be done.
Well, now that the Flint water crisis is pretty much calmed down, there must be a lot of surplus bottled water. Was there money in that $4.5 billion to send some of that surplus bottled water down to the border so that they don't have to drink out of toilets?
Yeah, no, I don't think there was anything like that in there, but I also know that they don't have to drink out of toilets. Well, then, and any of the 3 or 4 Democrats that are the most liberal, I just don't think they truly understand the greatness of America or even love America, are making that up because some person said that a Customs and Border personnel, probably out of frustration when someone who had come here illegally and was wanting more than what legal citizens get, finally, out of frustration, these people are working overtime hours that you and I would not work unless we were paid. They're doing it. And so probably out of frustration, 1 or 2 say, well, drink out of the toilet then. I can't get you the water right now. Now AOC and others are using that as something that is happening regularly, and it isn't. It is not happening. These people are receiving better care than they have in their homes back in Honduras or Guatemala or Dominican Republic or other places that are coming from.
I want to play another audio clip for you regarding the water. Derek, would you play that other water clip, please? Thank you.
These women were being told by CBP officers to drink out of the toilet.
Excuse me. I think this might be Gatorade or something. I was just looking for some regular water.
Water?
Yeah.
You mean like in the toilet?
One of the women said that she was told by an agent to drink water out of the toilet.
Well, that's obviously a clip from Idiocracy. I don't know if you've seen that, Tim, or not. That's the first thing I thought of when I heard AOC and a number of other people, when I heard of AOC saying they were drinking out of toilets. There's other things I've heard was that a friend of mine used to be in a Huron Valley Correctional Facility, and he said that the cells, he wasn't he was a guard, not a
yeah, right. We got it.
Yeah. So he said that, you had the sink and the toilet were actually one functional unit tied together. And is there any chance that was what was meant there? And are you going to be doing a fact-finding trip and stand outside a fence in the parking lot?
Well, we've had a large number of my colleagues go down who are on the appropriate committees to see what's taking place there. And even Democrats who have been down, the majority of them are giving the same story that the Republicans are giving, that these people are being brought in huge numbers. We don't have the resources to take care of them as we would like to because there's so many numbers and judges are not allowing us to do the things we ought to be doing. And I think that's going to change as well. But these people are being treated humanely. They're getting medical care. They're getting food. They're getting water. They don't have to drink out of the toilets. And
exactly.
if there is a Border Patrol agent that out of sheer frustration and overtime finally becomes exasperated and says, well, then drink out of the toilet. I can't get that water to you right now. Most of us can understand that could take place in a tough situation. Heat, large crowds of people. But these people are being put in these holding centers. Yes, they're fences. Yes, They're open for sight, but they're made so that little kids and females can't be preyed on by unattended males in other parts of the facility. We're trying to keep them safe until we can adjudicate their situation. Remember, we didn't ask them to come across. Especially, we didn't ask them to come across illegally. And I think once we get the proper funding and we start dealing with them more quickly with more magistrate teams, the word's going to get out that you're not just going to simply walk across the line. And if we finally get the funding to complete the border security fence, electronic surveillance, whatever it takes to secure the border, you're also going to say to people, you're not just walking across. In over 100,000 people the last 3 months, over 100,000 people have come across illegally that we've caught. That's not counting the ones we didn't catch. And
Tim?
Those are the ones that are getting up to Michigan, northern cities as well, without having any type of connection to legal immigration system at all. And that is not good for our country. And so we have to keep on it. But you have people like AOC and others who, for some reason, do not like the concept of America. I don't get it. I don't get that. But they are making a name by being anti-American system. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's going to last too long. I think Americans are going to get frustrated, and it's going to show in the polls in November of next year.
Excellent.
Tim, Pastor Richard Dietering here. We've talked a few times in the past. First of all, I want to thank you because you were able to sit there and call somebody across the table a friend, and I'll tell you why. One of my favorite quotes is accredited to Thomas. To I'll think of it later.
Joe Biden.
Let's say it. No. But it's a sign of an educated man that can hear the beliefs of another and not accept them. And
juggle a thought in the head. Yeah. I know what you're quoting.
So I can appreciate you being friends with someone even if you don't agree with them. But right now we have the governor of Washington who's running for president, who's pushing this new Green Deal. And if you actually listen to him, what you find out is the Green Deal is nothing more than a job finding process or job creation process. It really has nothing to do with saving the environment. What's the chances of that new Green Deal ever seeing the light of day?
Well, you never say never, but I think it's a long way off. The American people, if they were to put this forward, and I think if you get a presidential candidate that goes that far, and I don't think it's going to be the governor of Oregon. I served with him for several years. I don't think he has what it takes to make it to the end zone for the primary. But that Green New Deal, we'll be able to talk about it, the impact that it's going to have unnecessarily, and I use that word educated, it would be unnecessarily costly to Americans in every area of life, energy, agriculture, just the normal aspect of driving and transportation, the economics that will be destroyed by this when, in fact, our country right now economically is very strong and growing with greater opportunities. So I think if we had a chance actually to talk about the Green New Deal and Medicare for all and single payer, all of a sudden the general public overwhelmingly would say, no. That's not what we want. I like to keep my insurance that my employers provided for me. I'm not going to give that away. I like to be able to have my own car, my own vehicle to get around with. I want to have the ability to turn my air conditioner on in this type of heat, and I want to have the energy that's in place to be able to provide the energy to keep the air conditioner going.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back to the border real quick. What do we get for $4.5 billion? You said magistrates, but with the the MPP, where we can now turn them back. The Mexican government is going to accept them as. We can actually give them back to Mexico now, right? So won't that lessen the burden? So what kind of magistrate would want to sign up, give up what he's currently doing for such a short-term gig?
It won't be short-term when you have this many coming. And until they start to see that we are actually serious about what we're going to do, you're going to still have plenty coming. And we have such a backlog. I mean, we've got people we will never find, I'm sure, that have been let loose after whatever period of time it was at the time they came in that was allowed for them to be